breakfast with Bob. We're gonna swim, bag and run, because it's breakfast with Bob. In the Kona sun, it's breakfast with Bob. Cheers.
Thank you, Poncho Man. Welcome, everybody, to Breakfast with Bob from Kona at Huggo's on the Rocks. My name is Bob Babbitt, brought to you by Master Spas, SFuels, right fuel, right time, HOKA, Fly Human Fly, Deboer, Wetsuits, Quintana, and, of course, our Challenge Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, Mr. Jim Vance, who is coaching Ben Kanute for his first time at the Ironman World Championship here in Hawaii. How you doing, Jimmy?
Great. It's kind of hard to believe we've gotten to this point. Like, it's been talked about and
for a long time. You know, it's like we haven't had an American win here since Tim DeBoom, 2001, 2002. We need who's that next American? Was it Tim O'Donnell? Was it we've been that next? Ben's been next for a while.
Yeah, he's been in that conversation as could he be one of those guys? And But, it's been a journey. It's been a clear process in terms of the way we've had to do things. We've had to, start with the Olympics, the Olympic pursuit, because he and I started together in late 2016. In fact, we first sat down and chatted, and I've known him since he was like 14 years old.
Right.
But we first sat down and chatted right over there at what used to be Daylight Mind Coffee.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I remember asking him, because he was looking to make a change. He's coming off the Olympics and he had some new goals. He really believed that the mixed relay was going to come to the Olympics and that he would shine there. And he also believed that that moving up in distance was actually his best opportunity.
Yep.
And so the next step was to try and win 70.3 Worlds. And so he's like, so I want to win an Olympic medal in the mixed relay, and I want to win the 70.3 Worlds. And I remember thinking, why don't we go to the track and field World Championships and run the 100-meter dash and the marathon and see if we can win both?
Well, and Tour de France is coming up. You just sort of jump in there. Why not?
Throw it all in. So it was there, but I remember that conversation vividly and just asking him, okay, how many races did you do in the last year? And he thought, like, okay, about 20 maybe or something. I'm like, how many did you feel good at? And he said, 2.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, you're doing your competitors a favor. You're so talented that you're showing up to the line unable to express your fitness.
Right.
And you're your own worst enemy and your competitor's best friend. Like, don't do that. Let's change the approach. And especially when you want to add more intensity into training, you've got to be able to get the intensity in. If you're always beat down, you can't do that.
Right.
And so it was, here we are 8 years later, Bob. We have 2 world championship podiums.
Silver medals.
Where, and I mean, even his 4th place in 2018 was probably one of the greatest 70.3 races ever. In those 3 races alone, 2017, 2018, and 2022, if you didn't own an Olympic gold or silver medal, you did not beat Ben Kanute.
No, right. That's true.
That's the level of performance that he was at. And so, it's been a real journey. In fact, just this year I've been working on a book to really kind of talk about the journey, because I'm in a rare position where I've been coaching a guy for 8 years at this level, the same guy.
Yeah.
And so, it'd be different. Like, let's say in 2019, in Nice, France, he comes off the bike 4th ahead of Christian, right behind Rudy, Alistair, and Gustav.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, we got a shot at the podium here again. Unfortunately, he fades. I mean, he could have just fired me as a coach right then and there and said 10th place isn't good enough, and moved on.
It's your fault, I'm out.
Yeah. And I would have probably thought, well, everything that I did in 2017 and 2018 works. But because he stuck with me, I started to learn, no, this works, this doesn't work. The sport's changing in certain ways. And then, lo and behold, you saw all that work and all those changes and adaptations to the approach to 2022 St. George.
Yes.
And now he's back at the top. And it's, and it was funny because we felt like, hey, we're here. We're at the top of the sport. And next thing you know, the sport's here. And we're like, now we're still looking at the top. Like, okay, we got to keep climbing and just finding ways. So it's been an incredible relationship, very, very rewarding for me. I'd say this year he's demanded more of me than any year ever, because he knows the stakes.
Right. That clock's ticking. It is.
And I've just, when I look back, I mean, I've been very appreciative this week. I've been very anxious this week because I'm in the don't F it up mode. Like, he's like, oh, we'll leave the bike in the car. I'm like, no, we won't. I'm taking that bike with me. It's not leaving my side. Wherever we go, if we need to, like,
Yes.
I'm trying not to let anything go wrong. But, and I'm realizing, 8 years, Bob, we've never missed one start that he put on the calendar at the beginning of the year. Not one start. I mean, there's guys can't go 8 weeks without, getting injured and things. And we're doing it at a level that's been incredibly high. I mean,
yes.
We're kind of chuckling because I don't know how a guy that's been to the Olympics has
won Alcatraz 4 times.
Won Alcatraz 4 times. Has 2 silver medals at the World Championships. Has all these things. He's not even being talked about, which is great. We're loving it, And
he's definitely under the radar, and we
is.
chatted about that the other day. I mean, the reality is, I think people take Benny a little for granted. They know he's going to be there. They know he's going to be sort of a factor. But then they're like, oh, he got second. Or last year at Challenge Roth, he gets podium, right, in a very fast race.
Yes. So I think everybody knows he's going to be at the front of the race.
Yep.
We're just going to find out for how long. That's the truth. And we all know it, and he knows. And so, that's the exciting part. We get to sit back and watch. When we were here for a training camp, I was like, this is old hat to me. And then it really hit me like, he doesn't really know this place. Like, he hasn't really raced here ever or been here to watch enough.
But he's never really watched the race. He's never really been part of it. And you have been in, like, we would
almost
every
every
year.
year.
Yeah, you're here and you're getting the bike splits at run split at mile 1. And we're talking about how this guy is running even splits and this guy. So you've seen this race from the inside for a ton of years. How has that helped you get him ready?
Well, I think it's brought a lot of respect to the race.
Yeah.
He really has respected this. And this year, we really did front load the schedule with T100 races. And the plan was we peak in June at San Francisco, T100 and Mount Tremblant, and then we peak again in October.
Right.
And that, because historically that's always what we've done. And it worked out perfectly for us because, all those Alcatraz victories, and then always 70.3 Worlds was always right around that September-October timeframe. Yeah. So we knew we had a good blueprint and template to work from. It was just making the schedule fit. And unfortunately, I'll tell you this, he was fit going into Miami. And about 2 weeks prior, he was doing a little strength thing, and he just kind of torqued up his SI joint slightly, and it really came out in the race. I mean, Bob, he was so dejected. Like,
after that Miami race.
Like, he was more dejected after Miami than I think he was after not finding out he couldn't go to the Olympics in Tokyo.
Wow.
So it was, and that's really when I'm like, man, this, and he was like, okay, we're back to the drawing board, and it was all hands on deck, figure out what the heck went wrong. And then when we found out what was wrong, it took a little while. It was just that strength with the SI joint, and so it just locked up his back. And so, it was hard to predict. And then I kind of felt like in that first half of the year we were still playing catch up, and then we finally get to San Francisco, and all of a sudden it's a 14-minute swim. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And then we go to Mount Tremblant, and it's a 14-minute swim. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And what happens? Lionel's able to bridge.
Right.
And a lot of people don't know this, but Matthew Marquardt and Justin Rielli, they dropped Lionel after Lionel caught. And so it was those two off the front. Then it was Lionel. Then it was Ben coming off the bike. And Ben ran his way to second. But, I always kind of wonder, man, if we had a full swim, could Lionel have bridged that gap?
Yeah, exactly.
And would he have, and so that might have changed the whole impression. But Ben was very clear. Jim, we are all in for Kona. After that, let's really turn it. But this year, so in full disclosure, after his amazing performance at Roth, I had a massive anxiety attack.
Really?
Massive. And
because
just the stress. And as much as I'm blessed to have been with someone for 8 years, like I say, I go back to it. If he had fired me in 2019, I would have thought, well, I have the answer. All my things work. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to really see, no, I got the same athlete. I've got the same sample size here that I can work and see the direct, okay, if we do this, we get this result. And so, all your flaws are more exposed because the athlete hasn't changed.
No.
And if the athlete hasn't changed and the approach hasn't changed, Well, then it's the approach that's the problem. So
you always have to adapt.
You always have to adapt. And it's tough to recognize, like, hey, you go from thinking I got this figured out, I know how to do this, to I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And it's just that imposter syndrome kind of comes in. And, so it just, and then honestly, I think, too, the success at Roth, I wasn't prepared for. I
Really?
mean, he went 7:30. Bob, he only had about 6 weeks to really work for that. Like okay, now we went into Ibiza. He had an amazing Ibiza, his best. I mean, he almost got top 5 at that. I think he finished 7th. And then we, it's like, okay, now we're going to go and we're going to prep for Roth. And, we did a really intense camp. And in fact, he was in San Diego with me, and he's like, Jim, we got to turn it up more risk. All right. And we did. And then he went in there, and I just couldn't believe how well it went. So I think that was part of it, and just really coming to terms with my own, trying to balance, do I know am I really as good as I think, or am I as terrible as I think as a coach sometimes? So, and what I just found, though, that's been very clear is when athletes are on the start line in a great headspace, that's when they perform.
Yes.
You got to get to the start line healthy, happy, confident, and excited to race.
Right.
And I've just put all my eggs in that basket. I just need to get athletes to the start line in that frame of mind.
Yeah.
And the rest should take care of itself. I've done my part, and so I've really focused on that. And I think you had even said to me, Ben seems like he's in a really good space, and it's like that's been the entire focus for the year. Let's get here. Let's be confident, healthy, happy, excited on the start line. Really, I want him in the water before that gun, thinking he's already won, because he's here and he's done everything he can, and everything's been done right.
And then just enjoy the day.
Surrounded by people he loves that love and support him. We've got an amazing household right now. He even knows it, and it's great. We got his little kids running around and all that. It's so fun, and his family, his parents, his lovely wife Courtney, like, she's been an amazing support for him through this journey. So, yeah, I mean, I know one thing. Like, he's already told me, Jim, this race is going to go well, and I accept the result. And that's all we need. And
he knows he's done the work.
He has. So, in Phoenix, Bob. In Phoenix,
I know,
which we've never done before.
Never done that.
Never.
Okay.
Like, actually, last year, that was the thing. After Roth, he really struggled in Phoenix with the heat and things, and he had that awful August, where we just couldn't click it, and then he got COVID in Finland and Lahti, Finland. But it was that was really a turning point for me, where I realized, you know what, we got to get back to basics, and we just got to really support him and make sure that he sees success on a consistent basis in training and play the long game, and here we are. And now I know for a fact that no matter what the result is on Saturday, we'll hold our head high.
Yeah. So do you coach other pro athletes, or has Ben it?
Oh, I coach a few, but it's a long process. I play the long game.
So some you find some as juniors and as they move up, or more early pros?
Sure. I've coached a lot of top juniors. Right now I've got a handful of pros and some up and comers that I'm really excited about. I'd say, but I mean, when you have a guy who's capable of winning a world title, it kind of, the demands are high. It was like, okay, Jim, we're going to Kona and we're doing a camp. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll book my ticket and clear my calendar. Here we go. So, and we did 37 hours of training that week.
On this course.
Yeah, on the course, everything all around here, really learning the area. And so to have him here and ready, it's definitely been a journey, and I'm working on a book on that, and to just kind of go through. And the working title is Elite E Dreams. And it's all about the pursuit of trying to win the single hardest day endurance race in the world.
And the cool thing for Benny is, as somebody who grew up in this thing, in the sport, when he was like a kid, his dad was into it, this was always something he watched on television. This was always the Olympics, yes, but I think deep down he knew that one day he'd be here. And this is the year.
Oh, yeah. And, and I got to tip my hat to him. The kid's been patient.
So patient.
So patient.
Yeah.
So he's really, and it even took some timing. And right after St. George, or a little before St. George, I knew he was fit.
Yeah.
I knew St. George was going to go really well. And I was just like, in fact, I told him, I said, you're going to be on the podium. I don't know which step, but you'll be on the podium. And so, he obviously finished second. And so going into that, I told him, you know what? There's this race down the street from you that, maybe we should take advantage of while we got this fitness strike while the iron's hot, and just learn. If nothing else, go learn and see what you think. And it went well enough. I think he went 7:52, and that was, I think at the time, the 4th fastest debut of all time.
It was. Yeah.
And now, and then he was like, okay, now I'm going to Kona.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they changed the dates and split the event.
Oh, my God, yes.
And they said, okay, well, don't worry, Ben, you can roll it to 24. So all of a sudden we had a 2023 calendar that was wide open. I said, there's this cool race in Germany called Roth.
Challenge Roth.
We should go to. And man, he was like, you sure? I'm like, you will not regret it.
Oh,
and,
my God. He loved it.
Oh,
didn't he?
man, what an experience.
The crowds, every aspect of it. Yeah.
Bob, I couldn't use my phone at the start because there were so many people that the cell tower there couldn't handle it. That's how many people are there.
There's 250,000 people there watching that race. It's nutty.
It's incredible. You feel like you're at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah. We've got 31 folks from Tri Club of San Diego going next year.
Oh, that's going to be amazing.
Race. Yeah.
Yeah. No, who knows? I'd like it. I'd love to go back.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
well, it'd be nice going back as Ironman world champion.
Yes. Yeah. Or even, whatever. Like it's just an amazing venue. No Americans ever won that race.
That's true.
So that's really what we're trying to do, at least on the men's side. So we'll see, but that's definitely up there as a bucket list race.
What would it mean to Ben to win this race?
Oh man, I think it'd be emotional.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think that's part of it is just, like I don't think people understand the risk. Like what's the probability when an athlete starts the season that they're actually going to win the world championship? I mean, it's a long shot. It's a big gamble.
Well, especially how deep the field is now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the weather, you got all the outside stuff with the weather and the wind and the heat and and the best field probably ever assembled.
Well, and again, going back to it, after coaching him for 8 years, I've seen like I can't rest on my laurels. I can't think, well, this works. I've got to look and see where does the sport go from here. I mean, think about this, Bob. We've been racing Ironman distance for years, decades.
Yep.
We've been racing 70.3 distance for decades. We've been racing 100K. That's not new.
No.
No. But the duration required to cover these distances has decreased dramatically because of technology, breakthroughs in nutrition, all these things. So the way you trained for this race 5 years ago, it's not even the same race anymore.
Nope.
It's not like you can pull a training plan out of Triathlete magazine from 5 years ago. It doesn't apply. It's not the same race. It's not the same energy systems. It's not the same demands. It's not the same skill sets. And so, I mean, he and I have talked, and we certainly believe that I would say the top 5 are all going to break the course record tomorrow.
And I think that sub 4 there'll be a number of people in the bike.
Oh yeah. It's close. So you think about this: 45-minute swim. Figure T1, T2, 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. You're at 50 minutes.
Yeah.
A 4-hour bike, you're at 450. If you run 235, you're at 725. That's 15 minutes faster than the current course record. And you're talking about we're doing this race 2 weeks later than normal.
Right.
This has been probably the coolest week I've ever seen here for a race week.
It is pretty cool.
So, when I say I expect them to, at least the top 5 to break the current course record, I do mean it. And I think we feel like 725 may win the race. 730 is probably going to be on the podium.
Yes.
And so where can you fall in that? And, what's funny is I remember Ben's very first 70.3 race was in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And he ran a 120 off the bike.
Yeah.
At Roth, he went through the halfway point in 118 or 117. Something like that. Just the halfway point.
Yeah.
So we're already faster than we were when we're doubling the distances.
Isn't that wild?
So it's, but again, that goes back to the changes in the sport, the technology, the the wheel sizes have changed on the bikes. The aerodynamics. Ben's been in the wind tunnel twice this year, 2 separate times.
And back in the day, nobody went in the wind tunnel.
Yeah, it was too expensive.
Yeah.
And there wasn't the technology to actually, set up the bikes. It was, I think San Diego was the only place you could do, and it was almost $1,000 an hour to rent it. So, unless, very few guys had that. So now, there's wind tunnels in a lot more places. You can get there. The bike companies invest because they know that they need it to have a competitive bike.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, that's just the dramatic difference of the sport now. And we've had some great guys like Scott Tyndall with fueling has jumped on board and really did a great job showing Ben that he wasn't fueling enough in general.
Yeah.
And so, and this is the thing, I think this is part of it too. Like, I've always kept my ego a little bit in check. We brought on Pendola, we brought on Tyndall, we've had Bobby McGee, we've had a number of other experts, Parrick McGlynn from the Cyclologic. Because it's just now, like, as a coach, there's no way in the world you know everything in this sport.
It's a team event.
It is all about a team now. And you can, and I'd say one of the big changes I made this year too, I called up Ben's wife while he was in Singapore, and I realized, I told her, you know what? You're a key member of the team, and I've never called you and really asked you for your input. I'm like, and I apologized for that because I'm like, you're as valuable to this as anything else. What can we do to help? And what we found was we needed to organize training in a way that allowed them to have time together to make sure that the kids had the prep to reduce the stress in the household. And so we came up with a whole different template and approach that really did that based on the things we've learned, but that they could count on. And so, it really has been a whole team approach. I said, I used to say that I sat at the head of the table. What's really happened this year is I don't sit at the head of the table anymore. Ben does.
Right.
And then other people sit around the table, including his wife and Parrick and Pendola and myself. And so I'm maybe I sit second chair, to make sure the execution, and I'm responsible because I got to report to him. And so to say it's been a team effort, it's more like a corporation, quite honestly.
Well, that's really the way it's become. Mm-hmm. Jimmy, best of luck on Saturday, man.
Thanks, buddy.
It's going to be really fun to watch Jimmy out. It would be great to watch Benny out there, and there'd be nothing better than having an American win this thing.
Yeah, you can watch me too. I'll probably be a nervous wreck. And
yes, you will. I know. You already are. Yes. I love it. Pancho Man, take us out.
Breakfast with Bob. We're going to swim, back and run, because it's Breakfast with Bob. In the Kona sun, it's Breakfast with Bob.
And Pancho Man. Thank you, buddy.